what, yes, you're right.
We are in Western Mass.
Good point. Make it.
Especially our area here.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, and I've been involved since Howard Dean's campaign. And it's
Since we're past this, right.
like we're preaching to the choir, we rally each other. And it just seems like within this election, we've got to somehow take the energy from those of us who are here and move it outward to areas that really need our help, our bodies, our phone calls, whatever. It's not that we're pushed to use the energy out here.
So,
Could you repeat the
yes,
question?
so I'll repeat the question. So she said, in effect, if I can paraphrase, here in Western Mass, we get it.
Yeah.
We got to tell everybody else. For which I say, amen. Amen. That is exactly right. We have to take this energy. But here's a point I want to make clear on this. So much of life, right, it's all autobiography, how it fits in. I have 3 brothers. I told you about my 3 brothers earlier. I'm not going to identify who's who. But all I'm going to say is, I got one brother who's a Democrat. Turn off the... I got one who's a Republican, and I got one who I think is Tea Party. But here's the important point. I talk to my brothers a lot because the economic choices we're going to make, the value choices we're going to make, are choices they understand. And on that set of issues, this is not Democrat, Republican, this is not partisan. They get it, and they get it in their heart. My job is to say it in a way that they can all hear it, and for all of us in the room to do the same. But I think now, at this moment, at this division and this choice, we got the right thing to carry forward. We are clear about our message, and we're going to get out there and talk about it. Good. Yes.
If today you could lead and speak for the Occupy Wall Street movement, how do you today move them from identifying what we don't like to this is how we change it and this is how we make progress and correct things in the future? How do you do that?
So, the way I see this with Occupy Wall Street, the question is, how do you take Occupy Wall Street to the next level, to the next move? And I want to start by saying 2 parts to this. The first one is, I've been out there protesting Wall Street for a long time. The way I see the Occupy Wall Street movement at this moment is they are where they should be. They are raising a large national awareness around an issue and a set of issues that have borne down on us until they are about to crush us. So in that sense, they are in the right place at this moment. The question will be where it goes from here. And that is, are there going to be a set of issues they're going to organize around and push around, or will they remain a voice that is that just keeps pushing the narrative, the idea that there's something wrong here, but there are other avenues for fixing it. And I'm just going to be honest about this. I don't know which way Occupy Wall Street goes. It may organize into a clear and discrete set of demands. It may not. But either way, having an opportunity for Americans across this country, occupy all around this country and indeed around the world, I think is the right thing for us to do. This is what we do as people. This is what we do if we believe in democratic institutions. We stand up and say, here is my voice, this is what I have to say. The system is broken and we need to fix it.
Right.
That's how it is.
How have your recent experience in Washington?
Oh, this is the question about how much do I really want to go back to Washington?
How has that experience colored your views on just how effective you'll be able to be as a senator?
I will tell you, it's actually a wonderful question. So the question is, how have my experiences in Washington colored my views on how I can be effective? But it's a wonderful question. I've run exactly one campaign in my life, and that was a campaign to get a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I'm a lot tougher now than I was because I began to figure out how it works. And not in the way that's described. You know, people talk about Washington as dysfunctional, and we hear all these. I'm going to describe what I learned from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So I was in Washington. I was trying to work on accountability in the bank bailout system. I used the tools that were at hand to me. We didn't have much in the way of statutory authority, but by golly, we could do the research, we could write reports, we could hold hearings, we could end up on YouTube. We could do a lot of things to try to put some accountability, and we got some things out of that. One report alone is credited with having saved the taxpayers $8.5 billion that the banks had to cough up. Not bad for a day's work. But I looked around, I realized the real question is what's going to happen going forward. The rules we're going to write, just like we did coming out of the Great Depression, what will those rules look like going forward? And people were talking about derivatives and capital reserve requirements, very, very important things, but nothing about what happened at the family level, what happened at the household level, at the personal level. And I kept saying, but look, this crisis started one lousy mortgage at a time. And if we don't do something to stop that on the front end, to keep us from feeding poison into our financial system, people who built financial models around, I will trick you, and at the end of the day, it will cost you your house. If we don't stop that at the front end, we're just sowing the seeds for our next crisis and our next crisis and our next crisis. So I said, it's true. So I said, there's a way to do this. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, here's my idea. And people said to me two things. First thing they said was, that's a great idea. And the second thing they said was, don't do it. And these were our friends. And the reason they said don't do it, you will be up against the largest lobbying force ever assembled on the face of the earth. And their number one priority will be to kill this consumer agency because it will cost them money. And so the way I heard that was, just try harder. And so I thought, all right, people told me the way to get a consumer agency, you'll never get anything big like that. Ask for something small. Try to get a little amendment slipped in here and a little word change over there, and a tiny little piece you could add over here. You might get a little thing on credit cards, maybe a little adjustment in the language on student loans. Ask for something small and maybe you'll be able to slip it in. My view is no. That is not the way to make change.
Good on you.
Ask for something big that makes a real difference, but the first people to ask it are people. Get people behind you. We organize behind this. You know, there is no PAC for working families making $37,000 a year. What we did is we started getting groups together, individuals together. I just want to say, God bless the AFL, SEIU, Consumers Union, Common Cause, people who came in, groups that came in and said, you know, that's not usually where we are, our first priority, but we can add, we can help. Over time, we had more than 200 groups who were part of Americans for Financial Reform, and thousands of people around the country who just signed up. So that what I came to understand is you figure out what will make a real difference, you get groups organized and individuals organized behind it, and you all push together to make it happen. And that's exactly what happened with the consumer agency. I'll tell you something. I'm going to run a completely grassroots campaign here in Massachusetts, and I'll tell you why. A lot of people will say the reason you do that is because that's the only way to win. And others will say, no, there are other strategies for winning. For me, this is totally different. This is not about going to Washington so I can be a polite senator who in my fourth year does some piece of legislation that, is co-sponsored and nobody cares because it doesn't make any difference. The way I see it, is I'm out right now talking to people because I want those people with me, not just in the election, but when I make it to the United States Senate. When I speak, I want to speak for real people all the way around. That's what
Thank you. I was actually in some of those meetings setting up the CFPB Ontario.
God bless. It's good to see you, Karen.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'd like to just change the conversation
Sure.
a little bit and ask you to speak to what you would do about the current crisis in immigration, the
Yes.
increase in deportations, and